Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jabihari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana
Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana
Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jabihari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana
Sodanandana Jadananandana
Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana
Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Yamuna Tiravanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivracharya Astotaresri Srimat Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivracharya Astotaresri Srimat Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai Srila Namacarya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Girigovardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Mauna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Shri Shintai Gaur Hari Ki Jai Shri Rukmini ki Dwarikadish ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhiraya. So we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 17. We'll be reading a few verses. So I'll read from 6 to 14. So I'll read the English translations until the 14th verse. The luminaries in the heavens were screened by masses of clouds, in which lightning sometimes flashed as though laughing. Darkness reigned everywhere, and nothing could be seen. The ocean with its high waves wailed aloud as if stricken with sorrow, and there was a common commotion among the creatures inhabiting the ocean. The rivers and lakes were also agitated, and lotuses withered. Misty halos appeared around the sun and the moon during solar and lunar eclipses again and again. Claps of thunder were heard even without clouds, and sounds like those of rattling chariots emerged from the mountain caves. In the interior of the village, she-jackals yelled portentously, vomiting strong fire from their mouths, and jackals and owls also joined them with their cries. Raising their necks, dogs cried here and there, now in the manner of singing and now of wailing. O Vidura, the asses ran hither and thither in herds, striking the earth with their hard hooves and wildly braying. Frightened by the braying of the asses, birds flew shrieking from their nest, while cattle in the cowsheds, as well as in the woods, passed dung and urine. Cows terrified yielded blood in place of milk. Clouds rained pus. The images of gods in the temples shed tears, and trees fell down without a blast of wind. Ominous planets such as Mars and Saturn shone brighter. Okay, so I'll read the Sanskrit and we can do it responsively. Grahan punyatma anye bhaganam stapi dipita anti serurvakragatye yudascha parasam param grahan punyatma anye bhaganamaschapi dipita anti surarvakyagataya yudascha parasparam Grahan punya atma anye Bhaganama chapi dipita Ati sure vakragatye Yudascha parasparam. Somebody like to ne Bhaganam chapi dipita Iti chure vakyatya Yuyuda parasparam Grahan muyane Bhaganam sachabitara Disadura vakragatya Yuyuda parasparam Bhaganam savidaya Disadura vakragatya Yuyuda parasparam Grahan punyatma anye Bhaganam sapi depidaha Ati serura vakraja Yuyuda parasparam Punyata anye Bhaganam sapi depidaha Parasparam. Ladies? Grahan, planets, Punya Tamam, most auspicious, Anye, others, the omnious planets, Bhaganan, luminaries, Cha, and Api, also, Dipita, illuminating, Atichura, overlapped, Vakragatya, taking retrograde courses, Yuyuda, came into conflict, Cha, and Paraparam, with one another. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Omnious planets such as Mars and Saturn shone brighter and surpassed the auspicious ones such as Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus, as well as a number of lunar mansions. Taking seemingly retrograde courses, the planets came in conflict with one another. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. The entire universe is moving under the three modes of material nature. Those living entities who are in goodness are called the pious species, pious lands, pious trees, etc. It is similar with the planets also. Many planets are considered pious and others are considered impious. Saturn and Mars are considered impious. When the pious planets shine very brightly, it is an auspicious sign. But when the inauspicious planets shine very brightly, this is a very good sign. Sorry, I'll read that sentence again. When the pious planets shine very brightly, it is an auspicious sign. But when the inauspicious planets shine very brightly, that is not a very good sign. End of purport. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militan Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my darkened eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. To such a spiritual master, I pay my humble obeisances. Si Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadadi Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuba evacha patitanam pavinebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Chaitanya Swaminiti Namine Namami Bhakti Chaitanyam Prabhupada Anusevanam Shri Vrajadhana Mahatme Pradaksakam Kripa Arvanam. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Amine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Desatarine. Hare Krishna. I'm very fortunate to be in this place. It's the first time, I think, in my entire Krishna consciousness. I'm among so many senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and I feel myself very blessed. And I'm asking for forgiveness from beforehand if I say something that may be wrong, because I'm not that a great speaker. So, this is chapter 17 of the third canto, and it's entitled Victory of Hiranyaksha over all the directions. So there's 5 sections in this chapter. The first section, or is the first verse in fact, the demigods become pacified. And then there's the second section is deity gives birth to Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, which verse 2. Then terrible disturbances in the universe is from verse 3 to 15. This is what we just read now. And then section 4, the qualities of Hiranyaksha in Hiranyakashipu, verses 16 to 22. And then section 5, Hiranyaksha confronts Varuna, is verses 23 to 31. So I thought I'll just put everything into perspective first, So, like in the first verse, it's entitled, The Demigods Become Pacified. The demigods become pacified because Brahma has actually pacified them. So, straight away here, we are being pointed out that when there is a calamity or anything inauspicious that's happening, we have to go to an authority. we have to go to an authority. And Brahma is an authority because he's a secondary creator of this universe. So the demigods actually visited Brahma. And Brahma, sometimes he gives the solution, but sometimes he can't give the solution. And then he approaches, the Garbhodakshaya ocean and speaks to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the milk ocean. And he speaks to Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and asks him, how to sort a certain problem. And then Mahavishnu converses to Brahma through his heart. And then Brahma relates it to the demigods. So this is how, and then sometimes Mahavishnu says that, I have to actually come down to earth or to wherever it may be to sort the problems. Because sometimes problems cannot be sorted out, without coming down. So there is a question that lots of people ask, why does the Lord himself has to come down? Why does the Lord himself has to come down? Why can't he send a representative? Like in Christianity, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, came. In Mohammedism, the Prophet Muhammad came. So why in your religion, the Lord himself has to come down? So there was a ruler in the 15th century, the emperor, and his name was Akbar. And he had a prime minister called Birbal, And Birbal is an advisor to the emperor. So Akbar asked Birbal, why, in your Hindu tradition, why does the Lord come down himself? Why can't he send a prophet? Or, because the Lord has a lot of work. How can he take time off and come personally? So Birbal said, this is a very hard question. Just give me a few days, to get the answer. So after a few days, the king with Birbal was riding on the river. And when the king, he's an emperor, so he's quite a great person. So when emperors or presidents, when they ride along, on the highways, there's an entourage that goes with them, about 4 or 5 cars. So similarly in this river, there were boats with, soldiers, and Birbal and the president or the emperor was sitting in one boat, and there was another boat which was a little further away, and it was in the mist. And from that boat, it seemed as if somebody fell off into this, huge river. So the emperor was seeing this and he's asking Birbal, who is that? Who is that? So Birbal said, I think that is your grandson. So the king immediately jumped into the water and he swam to save, his grandson. So eventually they came to the shore, and then the emperor discovered that this was not an actually, living entity. It was an effigy, that just fell into the water. So, he was very angry and he said, whoever has done this, I will slaughter the head off, because he was so enraged. So Birbal said, what is wrong, my lord? He says, no, but this is not my grandson, this is an effigy, So Birbal said, my lord, You have got your soldiers here. You have got me. Why did you have to jump to save your grandson? So the king said, this is my grandson. It's not. So Birbal said, similarly, our Lord comes down to save us from the ocean of birth and death. This was the answer Birbal gave. And yes, indeed, our lords are really merciful. They come down personally to save us. And we are fortunate that Srila Prabhupada, who is also empowered by the Lord, came down, to save us. So this is the first verse. Then terrible disturbances in the universe. So why are there these omens that are bad? These omens also occurred earlier on, I think in Canto 2, when Yudhishthira Maharaj was anxiously waiting for Arjuna to return about the news of Krishna. At this stage, Krishna was rounding up, all his earthly things and going back to Goloka, Vrindavan. So these omens, Yudhishthira Maharaj was witnessing, and he was thinking that there's something is amiss. He already knew that Krishna has left. When Krishna was on this planet 5,000 years ago, and when he was leaving, Yudhishthira Maharaj saw these omens. And, in Vedic philosophy and culture, they believe in omens. And why? Why do you get these omens? Yes, it's to frighten you as well. It's to frighten you into a shock so that you do something about it. These omens. But we are not like the materialists. They know it all. They know it all. And they say that, they will fight it. They will protect the citizens. For example, a couple of years, there was this dreaded disease called COVID. And the whole world was in a lockdown. But yet, they couldn't, and up till date, they haven't found a cause of this disease. Yet, if you consult, the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, and you go into the detail and Srila Prabhupada's purport, you will get your answers. Because we are trying to be, like Krishna. We have imperfect senses. So how, with our imperfect senses, we can get perfect answers? An example is given, like if you want to find out, who is your father? For example, you don't know your father, so you go and ask your mother. Your mother is the authority. Similarly, the Vedic scriptures, they are mothers, they are our mothers. They give us direction on who's our father. Actually, this Bhagavatam, this is describing our father in so many different verses, 18,000 shlokas, describing our father. So therefore, we have to consult our scriptures. But in this age of Kali Yuga, it's so difficult. For example, in ancient days, these confidential knowledge was locked up in the Sanskrit language. And very few people know Sanskrit. Very few people know Sanskrit. So, this knowledge will only be revealed to those who know Sanskrit. And this is how this Vedic knowledge was actually, locked in. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. And it said like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu plundered this knowledge and he distributed it freely to all, not looking as who is Brahmana, who is Kshatriya, who is Shudra, who should be getting this knowledge. No, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this knowledge, to all without any discrimination. But our Srila Prabhupada, he even did better with no disrespect to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But our Srila Prabhupada took this knowledge from India at a very mature age of 60 years old, and went to the West, came here, New York and then here. And he started spreading this message about Godhead. And we are so fortunate. If it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, I would have not come to Los Angeles. I would not be sitting in this class and getting such a nice association from all Srila Prabhupada's sons and daughters. I consider myself very, very fortunate. So I just want to reflect. I am not that old amongst you saintly people. I am only 66 years old. And when I was born, I just want to describe in my short years of 66 what I saw, what really happened. When I was born on a farm in South Africa, a sugarcane farm. And my parents were landowners, they were farmers. So I was born in not a poor family, but a middle class family. But every night, I remember as a child, every night we sat, if it was cold, we sat around a fire. And my granny and sometimes my brothers, they spoke, on Mahabharata, Ramayana, not on Krishna so much, but more on Lord Ramachandra and Mahabharata, And, we were very happy. I was very happy as a child, But when I stepped out and I went to start getting education, so-called education, I started getting mixed up, and getting all sorts of different ideas. Then I started smoking, then I started drinking. And these bad habits, I am getting these bad habits from the so-called, I went to be educated, But probably it's orientation into this Kali Yuga place. And at that time, I didn't know, But although I used to reflect when I was a young boy, when I was about 8 years old, the principal asked me on Ram Navami Day, to say something about Lord Ram. And I knew the whole pastime of the Ramayana. And I spoke in front of the assembly, and the principal gave me an award, to have spoken about the Lord so much. So this is the background that I have come from. But when I got into school, university, all those things were gone, And then I thought, okay, this is the proper way to live. But I then started seeing suffering and experiencing suffering. But I was most fortunate that I met my wife, Kishori. She, at the age, she was very young. She doesn't remember every detail. But when Srila Prabhupada came to South Africa, Srila Prabhupada went to her house. And Srila Prabhupada, her father was a professor in education, and he was in the University of Durban, Westville University. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to meet the rector of the university, Professor Olivier. So her father was the man to do that. And Srila Prabhupada, when I met her father, he actually described me that Srila Prabhupada was sitting here. And this is what Srila Prabhupada was talking, you know. And he said that his experience was when he introduced Srila Prabhupada to Professor Olivier, somebody started to serve tea, and Prabhupada brushed the tea aside, and he told his students to distribute prasadam. You know, so Srila Prabhupada, he was so merciful, you know, and I owe me coming to Krishna consciousness because of the glance of Srila Prabhupada. And I married Kishori, now we together for about more than 40 years. And now we're serving together in Krishna consciousness. So I think myself fortunate to have been influenced by Srila Prabhupada. And now we're serving together in Shishinatai Gaur Hari Temple in South Africa. So, Hare Krishna, we will stop there. If there's any questions or comments or criticisms or corrections, I will accept. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. So your wife made you a devotee?
Yes. I didn't go into the nitty-gritty of things. After we got married in 1983, right? And then we somehow or the other, you know, we got in touch. We used to stay in Durban, and we moved to Johannesburg, and we saw these posters, you know, advertising a Krishna program, and His Holiness Krishna Das Maharaj will be speaking. And we saw the posters, and my wife said we should actually go, you know, for this event. So we went, and I thought that Krishna Das Maharaj was speaking to me, you know, because he was saying, you know, being an Indian and you sucking the bones. You know, he was very blunt and smashing. And that evening he smashed me. He smashed me so much that when I left, that his class was 4 hours is actually short. It started at 8 o'clock, and at 12 o'clock at night it was still growing, you know, as if he's not going to stop. And I remember Giriraj Maharaj, he was sitting, you know, on the stage, and Maharaj was like falling off to sleep. But this was so powerful, this talk, that it struck me in my heart. But I owe it to my wife, because Srila Prabhupada glanced over her when he came to her father's house, and I felt that was Srila Prabhupada's mercy that came from her. Yes, and I respect her to be my guru.
Haribol.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.